When I saw the Mardu Surge Precon, I knew that there was only one tyrannical overlord that it could possibly be blended with. This is Precon Mash-up from the MTG Thoughtcast. I'm your host, Joseph. This is the show where we take two distinct precons and we combine them to make one very, very powerful deck using only the cards found in those precons. So let's talk about these two decks. The Mardu Surge deck cares about making tokens. Now, I'm choosing to not consider Zurgo as one of the commanders for this, which I'll get to in a second, but what it cares about is making tokens and either keeping them around or sacrificing them. There's certain ones you want to keep around, there's certain ones you want to sacrifice. That got the gears turning about another token deck in Mardu that's come out in the last couple years, and that's the Hail Caesar Precon deck. So if you own both of these decks and you want to make a Precon mashup of these, this video is for you. Otherwise, enjoy the entertainment. So as the thumbnail might indicate, I'm choosing to use Neriv as the commander for this deck. Now, Neriv, as the 5-mana 4/4 dragon, enters the battlefield. It makes 2 goblin tokens, and then when it attacks, you impulse draw, you sort of Gonti draw to exile cards equal to the number of differently named tokens that you control. So part of the reason that I'm going with Neriv is because we're combining 2 different decks. We're going to have a slew, an absolute cornucopia of differently named tokens to pick from. So I think that Neriv benefits most from this specific combination of decks. Although I will say it was a very close contest and almost a coin flip for Caeser, Legion's Emperor. See the Caeser right here, Caeser. It was a very close call to not pick him. I think he probably could have fit in exactly the same way. I just am excited about Neriv because it feels like loot. So these two decks could not possibly be more different card uniqueness wise. Where normally we're like, oh, there's 130 unique cards to pick from after lands and everything. These two precons only share 20 cards total, and that's including the lands. There's about 5 overlapping non-land cards in both of these. So we had 180 cards to pare down from, which obviously had my work cut out for me. But what we started with cutting was anything that cared about sacrificing tokens, because Neriv wants to keep tokens around. So this was a really obvious first place to go to start getting rid of. So there was things like Yahenni in the Mardu deck that just didn't feel like it worked with what Neriv is trying to do. So obviously the goal was going to be getting rid of things that sacrifice tokens and keep the things that make as many different unique tokens as possible. What I found is that we're going to be using a lot of the Mardu Precon for this, as it just is a great shell of making really cool, really unique tokens. Obviously, Neriv makes goblin tokens. So the Beetleback Chief and the Siege Gang Commander were some of the first ones to come out after we got rid of the Aristocrats package, just because Neriv cares about uniquely named tokens. So that led us to not care about making goblin tokens, because by the time that Neriv is down, there's already goblins anyway, so it doesn't do anything functional. Now, I know what you're going to say. I just said moments ago that it was a toss-up between Caeser and Neriv, and Caeser sacrifices tokens to do his abilities. What Caeser does that I think is very strong in the deck is his interaction with Neriv. So Caeser comes in on 4, Neriv comes in on 5. Neriv comes in and makes 2 goblin tokens. Obviously, Neriv at that point is only going to see 2 tokens with different names. So what Caeser can do in that moment is attack and sacrifice one of the goblins, turn it into humans. So he still ends up converting redundant tokens into differently named tokens. He's also in there for flavor, and so that I can get the clickbait of Fallout and Skyrim on the thumbnail. There you go. So a couple of things that I found really, really cool from the Fallout deck to supercharge what Neriv is trying to do and what the Mardu Surge is trying to do is the squad mechanic, which is on cards like Gary Clone, you can see here. The squad mechanic is an ability that you pay extra mana while you're casting the spell, and you get token copies equal to the number of times that you've squatted it. So That alone is a very good ability because it just makes additional copies of itself, but with Neriv, those are uniquely named tokens that aren't found on any other cards. So it's able to just add to our uniqueness factor in the deck by making tokens that are copies of creatures and have unique names to them. Similarly, if you're just upgrading either one of these decks, Offspring would be a very similar and good mechanic to be including in here. There are two cards that really stood out to me from the Fallout deck as particularly good with the Mardu Surge Precon and with Neriv herself. That is McCready here. I'm not too familiar with the Fallout characters. Please don't crucify me. Caeser. So McCready is such a cool include because he cares about something with power 4 that's attacking, and he cares about stuff with low power, tokens with low power that are attacking. So it's just, he's such a great include. He works with both the commander and tokens. Similarly, Elder Arthur Maxon, he benefits both our tokens and our commander. So these were a couple of really easy keeps from the deck. That being said, I had a lot of trouble cutting down the rest of it. It was a series of cut and then playtest and then cut and then playtest, and continue doing that until we got down to the point where it was 123 cards left in the deck. So first pass got me down to 123, which meant that I needed to cut 23 more cards. A few of them that might sound strange that I cut. Hero of Bladehold is one of them that I think there's equal argument for it to be in the deck as there is for it to be out of the deck. I ended up just cutting it because it felt slow. General's Enforcer is another one that I cut from the Fallout Precon because without Caeser in the command zone, there's just not enough legendary human cards for it to matter. The last few cuts that I made that really hurt my heart to do was eliminate the competition. This one, it felt so cool in practice with the Convoke and all of the things, but I just felt like we weren't going to end up doing that. That was one that I really wanted to keep in, and I think that there's total merit. So if you are looking at the full deck list that I've made, which you can check down below, feel free to contest me on Eliminate the Competition, because it is a really cool card in here, but man, it was just so difficult. Let's talk some numbers for the deck. So I was able to cut down to 36 lands, which I normally wouldn't advocate going down that far, or even below 37 really, but there's enough ramp between the two decks. You get Soul Ring, obviously, you get all your talismans. The land package is very, very good because we're combining the two decks together, so you get the best of both of the mana bases of them. So smooth mana, very few tap lands. We've got ramp from both of the decks. It just felt like 36 was the correct number for it. We're also able to make 21 unique tokens, plus there's 4 cards with Squad in the deck, and there's a couple of different ways to make Myriad. One of my favorite ways to use Myriad is from Iron Will Forger from the Mardu Surge Precon. It's 4 mana for a 3/3 with Lieutenant, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control your commander, target non-legendary creature you control gains Myriad until end of turn. So what that does is you're able to put it on itself, or any other of your creatures that are down. Maybe they have ETBs that make tokens, like the Angel of Invention or something like that. You can just myriad that into play, make additional tokens, like we talked about with Squad. That's unique names of tokens on the battlefield, and you can stack those triggers accordingly so that Neriv sees them. Overall, my playtesting of this deck seemed so sick. This new direction that Wizards is taking Mardu, where it cares about tokens, or cares about sacrificing the tokens, or cares about differently named tokens. It's such a unique way to get card advantage and be an engine for a deck that this was just such a fun project to go through a very popular deck. The Hail Caesar deck was one of the more popular decks from the last couple of years. You can check out the entire deck list linked down below. I'll have that down there. Leave me some comments telling me what you think about this deck. Are you going to build it? Would you recommend it to a friend? And we'll see you next time on the MTG Thoughtcast.